Hey, good evening, everybody. I will call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Mr. City Attorney, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
No, Mayor, there's no reportable action this evening.
Thank you, City Attorney Melching. Madam Clerk, have you received any correspondence on tonight's agenda?
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dynas?
Here.
Councilmember Diederich?
Here.
Councilmember Temple?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin?
Here.
And Mayor Estrada.
Here. Next, we're on words of inspiration. I would like to invite Chuck Benjamin to come to the podium. Good evening, Mr. Benjamin.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, City staff, and members of the public. As we begin tonight's meeting, let us take a quiet moment to reflect on the purpose that brings us here: to serve with integrity, to lead with clarity, and to govern with care. Public service asks more of us than following procedure or casting votes. It calls us to lead with conscience, to listen with humility, and to recognize that disagreement does not preclude respect. We may differ in approach, but we share responsibility to build a community where every person feels heard, every neighbor feels valued, and every resident has a place. Our community is made vibrant by the richness of our backgrounds, beliefs, cultures, and perspectives. This diversity is not a challenge to overcome. It is a resource to cherish. It fuels innovation, fosters understanding, and deepens our collective wisdom. When we bring our full, authentic selves to the table, we shape decisions that are more inclusive, more just, more reflective of who we are as a whole. Let us remember that the vision we hold for Menifee, a safe, thriving, and welcoming city, is not just the dream of one person or one group. It is a shared ambition. It lives in the aspirations of every small business owner, every student, every parent, elder, newcomer, and lifelong resident. So as we move through tonight's agenda, may our decisions be guided not only by policy and process, but by principle. May we lead with humility, act with honesty, and govern with a shared hope for the future of our city. Thank you and have a wonderful meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. We appreciate you sharing the words of inspiration tonight. Next, we're on our Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to invite Connor. He's a student at Catherine Newport Middle School. He will lead us in the pledge. Come on up, Connor.
Take off all hats and hoodies. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Next, we're on presentations. We are going to recognize our Lake Menifee Women's Club. I would like to invite the Women's Club to come up to the front of the dais and council to join. So every month, we have a council member who selects either a Citizen of the Month, and I just learned an organization can be honored during Citizen of the Month. So I will allow our council member, Dean Dynas, to make the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, as it is my month to choose the Outstanding Citizen of the Month, and as the Mayor said, either it's an individual or an organization that serves our community. So I'm thinking about, it's June, you know, in a week or so, we're going to be having our Independence celebration. And I thought, well, who started it all? These ladies, well, not these ladies. They're carrying on their tradition. But, you know, the Lake Menifee Women's Club is the one who started it. And we started a great tradition that has been running since the city incorporated. And so I thought, that's appropriate. But what else have they done? Well, then I started making this list and it got longer and longer. And, you know, we have a youth leadership program. They provide scholarships. They raise funds for different organizations, a domestic violence shelter, and on and on. It'd probably be easier to say what you don't give to than what we do, but it's so important that we recognize an organization that serves our community the way they do. So I am more than honored, more than pleased to have my nomination this month to be the Lake Menifee's Women's Club. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Yeah, well, having lived here for 23 years, I learned from the very first day that the Menifee Lakes Women Club does the fireworks, does the 4th of July parade, and that's just been something so special that has been with my kids, my wife and I. We love attending. Thank you for all that you do, for your focus on students, young people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well earned.
I just want to thank you all for everything that you do. You do so much. Looking forward to the Independence celebration coming up. I've been honored several years to be a judge for the parade. Unfortunately, I don't get to do that again this year, but it was always a treat for me, and thank you so much for doing that for the city. All the things you do, I know you have the handbag event that you do to raise funds, right? Everything. Gloria, where aren't you, right? Saw you at WRCOG Thursday night and said, I don't think we can have a meeting where we're not honoring you in some shape or form, and here you are again with everybody. But that said, I want to thank all of you for all that you do. I know it's a team effort. You all do so much, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of credit beyond the fireworks display. There's a lot that the Lake Menifee Women's Club does, and how long the organization has been a staple. They've been there longer than Menifee, and to be able to persevere through there and empower women and give women leadership roles to be examples in the community is so important for Menifee, and it's what we're really all about. So thank you so much for everything you've done for our community. I'm so glad we're getting to honor you this time.
Thank you so much for all the things you and your club do. I was overhearing you, Stacy, in 35 years the club has been in existence? 1990. So it's been around since before the city incorporated. One of our oldest clubs. I was reading your website, one of the oldest, if not the oldest club in Menifee. But we appreciate everything you do. And I saw Gloria and Shelley at the Youth Leaders event recognition, and they gave a couple $1,000 scholarship, right? And supporting our youth. We look forward to everyone joining us on the Independence Day celebration. That's June 28th. Yeah, the Saturday before the 4th of July. And I just want to say thank you personally all to you face to face. So I'll go ahead and read the recognition on behalf of the city. In recognition of your longstanding service and exceptional dedication to the city of Menifee, from founding the city's annual Independence Day celebration to supporting vital programs like the Domestic Violence Shelter, Menifee Better Together, the Boys and Girls Club, and Youth Leadership Scholarships, the City Council commends your organization's exemplary commitment to community engagement and selfless service to others. Thank you so much. Yes. Let's go ahead and take a photo all together. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, let's give you guys a chance to say something. Who would like to go first?
Thank you. My name is Shelley. Okay. My name is Shelley Hobbs, and I'm the new president for the Menifee Women's Club. And I'm honored to be in such a club, being only been here for 4 years, but the legacy that has been with this club is amazing. And to be able to carry that on and be around these amazing women that have taught and still teaching me how to carry on and be in our community and our youth. Youth is huge with me. Is such an honor. It's really awesome. We have our Independence Day celebration coming up next week, and I'm new to it, but I'm excited, and it's truly, truly a group effort. We have the city helping us, and we have the vendors, and we have Valley-wide, and it's truly a group effort. So I want to thank everybody who has put their time and effort to help us with our fundraiser. We really appreciate it. We really, truly do. Thank you so much for honoring all of us with this. Miss Gloria, thank you. No? Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead and take a photo. Next on our presentations is the Community Services Update. Can I please ask Community Services Coordinator Aisha Wilson to provide the Community Services Update? Hey, good evening, Mrs. Wilson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council Member. As the Mayor said, my name is Aisha Wilson, Community Services Coordinator for Senior Programs, Cultural Arts, and Veteran Services. And tonight I'm going to provide you the Community Services Update. So the Case and Acero Senior Center offers a variety of activities and workshops. On June 19th, there will be a cell phone 101 class for seniors where they get assistance with operating their cell phones. On June 26th, from 10 to 12, there will be a resource table offered by Veterans Care Relief, providing information to veterans and their dependents on VA aid and attendance benefits assistance. On July 14th, the Riverside County Office on Aging will be hosting a nutrition class with information on healthy eating and shopping on a budget. This class will be offered in both English and Spanish. The Adult and Youth Adaptive and Inclusive Program have kicked off their Mighty Me summer activities at Lazy Creek Center. Art Mondays offers a creative activity in variety of arts mediums for youth and adults to enjoy. Social Friday is on the fourth Friday of each month. This month, the staff is hosting bingo for the youth and a luau for the adults. Oops, I think I skipped there. I'm sorry. The Aquatics has kicked off their summer season, and they're kicking it off this Saturday with Rec Swim at Paloma Valley High School. Learn to Swim and Lap Swim begins this Monday. The Menifee football registration is now open. The deadline to register is July 19th. And begin mid-August. The specialty camps that we have offered, the Community Services Department is currently hosting a variety of week-long contract class specialty camps this summer for all youth to enjoy. Anime art begins June 30th, Polynesian Cultural Arts Camp begins July 19th, and Gymnastics and Junior Olympian Camp begins on July 21st. Registration is still open for these specialty camps. And amongst all these activities, we have our citywide special events. We have a variety of activities taking place this next month. Starting with this Friday, we have the Go Skate Day and Movies in the Park. That's taking place at Audie Murphy Skate Park from 3 to 8. There will be food vendors and giveaways from 6 to 10 p.m., and the movie begins at dusk. The annual Independence Day celebration takes place on June 28th from 4 to 9:30, and event and parade begins at 4 p.m., and the fireworks show begins at 9 p.m. So we hope that everybody comes out this next Saturday. July 11th to 12th, the annual family campout at Lazy Creek Recreation Center is taking place. Families will get to enjoy a variety of activities, s'mores with Park Ranger Amanda, and a movie. And then the last Moonlight Market will be taking place on July 28th from 7 to 10 at Centennial Park. There will be food and merchant vendors. The Cheese Whiz Band will be performing 80s greatest hits. Last but not least, we have the July 25th will be hosting Shakespeare in Sun City. This year, Shakespeare's play is Romeo and Juliet. There will be food and merchant vendors at this event. All this information can be found on our City of Menifee website by visiting www.cityofmenifee.us/register or just going to our direct site, Community Services Department. This concludes the CSD updates. I'd be happy to answer any questions the mayor or council may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. I see Councilman Diedrich in the queue. Go ahead.
I just had a question about Friday night. Do we know what movie you're showing yet? Or is
Yes.
the voting still open?
Hocus Pocus.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Got anything on the amphitheater?
No. I'll defer it to Gabby. No updates at this time.
We don't have a projected opening date or anything?
Not at this time.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I see no other questions in the queue. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. We appreciate all the hard work you and Gabby do on a daily basis. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, next, we're on agenda approval or modifications. Madam Clerk, are there any modifications to tonight's agenda?
None this evening.
Okay, can I ask the City Council for an all in favor to approve the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Next, we're on public comments. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on non-agendized items?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read the statement. This is a time for members of the public to address the council about items which are not listed on the agenda. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the council's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes on any single item. Madam Clerk, please call the first speaker.
Katie Luna.
Okay. Mrs. Luna, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Katie Luna with the Menifee Valley Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to come here tonight just to give you a quick update. We did, in partnership with the city's Economic Development Department, last Thursday, June 12th, we completed the 2025 Keeping Existing Employers Profitable Business Walk, the Keep Walk, as we call it. And so we had a team of 25 volunteers who went out to the community and surveyed 200 businesses. So we made contact with a good majority of the 200 that were on the list. We had a few that were not open during that time frame, but we have some good data. We're uploading it now into a spreadsheet, and we'll get some numbers back over to Economic Development. Just want to thank Corey, Kayla, Dara, and the team for assisting and helping with that effort. It was very successful. And then next Thursday, just wanted to invite you over to MSJC in Temecula. We'll be partnering with the other chambers in the All Valley Mega Mixer. So that'll be next Thursday, June 26th at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Luna. Madam Clerk, are there any more public speakers?
No other speakers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, we're on part 8 of the agenda, council member updates and comments. Councilmember Diedrich, please lead us off.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a little bit because I unfortunately missed last meeting, so my update will be quick, but it'll encompass the last month. On May 26th, I think we were all there. We attended the Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony. That was an honor to honor everybody that was fallen during that time period. On the May 27th, there was the Southwest Education Coalition meeting. On May 28th, I was able to attend the high school district Student of the Year breakfast. It's just amazing to see the students that are coming out and the things they're doing and how much they're going to impact our future. So it was great seeing that and being a part of that. June 3rd was here for the Menifee Masters graduation ceremony for that, the realtors to educate them on the city of Menifee. June 10th, I attended and spoke at the Quail Valley Community Group, and the mayor was there as well, and so we were able to share the spotlight some and both speak to the residents there in Quail Valley. Happy to do that. June 11th, I had a special meeting for the Southwest Elected Leaders Coalition, getting ready. We're heading up to Sacramento next week to go talk with legislators up there to try to get some relief on VMT and infrastructure and things like that. So next meeting, I should have some takebacks from that Sacramento trip. Then June 11th, I was able to attend and be a part of the Heritage High School graduation ceremony. It was hot, but they were all excited and good for them moving on to their future. And finally, June 12th, was able to attend the WRCOG General Assembly where we held the annual meeting. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Temple.
Thanks, Mayor. On June 6th, I attended the Menifee's Got Talent event at Liberty High, which was it was really good. I wish more people would attend. That's a lot of fun. On June 10th, I went to the Storm Game, the All Abilities Night, put on by Menifee Rotary. On June 11th, I went and met and spoke briefly with Menifee PD management at their monthly meeting. On June 12th, I was at the swearing-in ceremony for our 3 newest Menifee PD officers, Officers Ortega, Ludio, and Vasquez. And then finally, on June 13th, I went out to Palm Springs to the Freedom Festival, which is held throughout the entire week. And the California Policy Center recognized and honored 2 cities, Menifee included, for their A grade for fiscal responsibility. So that was a neat thing to have our city recognized for the way we handle and we're good stewards with the public's money. That is my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Dynas.
Thank you. On June 10th, I went to the All Abilities night at the Storm. Good time. Thank you, the Rotary, for putting that on. I know they raised some funds for that for some of our local programs here. That was it was well attended for the Rotary folks, and so we thank them so much. Then on June 12th, I was at the swearing in of our newest police officers. And then that evening went to WRCOG General Assembly, where our own resident, now don't be too shocked, but it was, or surprised, but it was Gloria Sanchez received an award for her community services. Well-deserved, and it's great to have her recognized at a regional level for what she's done for our city. So congratulations, Gloria. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I've got a report out from RCTC, which I attended. 2 items of interest. Number one, there is a Metrolink line that goes into Paris, but it's not very populated. It's not very, there aren't a lot of opportunities to ride. It's a limited line. And I found out the reason for that is because there's only one track, and the commercial and freight liners use it most of the day, so there's not an opportunity for passenger lines to get in and out of that station, except for very early in the morning and very late in the afternoon. So our RCTC approved $1.2 million of design funds to double track that section from Paris north to allow for more passenger lines to go through, to hopefully improve service up there so more people can use that to get into Riverside, Orange County, and LA. Secondarily, I wanted to let everybody know that the I-15 northbound on-ramp is going to be closed at Rancho, California from June 23rd through July 1st, because they're going to be doing the Smart Freeway pilot project. Ultimately, the 3 freeway exits, Winchester, Rancho, California, and Temecula Parkway, are going to be synced all together. You see the meters that say red, yellow, green to go onto the freeway. Those normally operate just independently, letting cars, but these 3 are all going to be synced together, so they're going to be alternating cars from all 3 exits to cut down on the congestion in the area. So after this will be Temecula Parkway, but they're going to do that one July 23rd, so make accommodations there. Moving on, I was at the WRCOG General Assembly, happy to honor Gloria Sanchez there. I was really proud to honor the city of Menifee, to represent the city of Menifee at the Southern California Air Quality Management meeting. They were having a vote to amend rules 1111 and 1121. We had sent a letter of opposition, but the 2 rules were to require homes to convert gas appliances to electric appliances, gas heaters and the such, and it would be a huge burden on our communities, especially our mobile home communities, things like that. So I went down there and spoke and testified at the dais, and I was happy that my comments resonated, because I was quoted in the LA Times and on NPR's coverage of it. So it really made a difference, and ultimately was sent back to committee. So small victories there on behalf of our residents. I attended the French Valley Cafe 25th year ribbon cutting. That was nice to get out there with Supervisor Chuck Washington and honor them for that. I attended Menifee's Got Talent from the stage. I got a free ticket because they made me play a song in order to get a free ticket. I was happy to do that. I love attending our community partners meeting, where all of our leadership, all of our service organizations talk about what's going on in the city, and there is so much going on, and happy to give people updates on the city of Menifee. I attended a Bradley Bridge community meeting at the Sun City Civic Association. Mayor was there, where I was shocked at the low turnout. It is the lowest turnout of anything I've ever seen at the Sun City Civic Association for any reason. And then they had snacks, too. Normally, that brings a huge crowd. But they had posters up and telling everybody what's going on. The bottom line is we're doing a groundbreaking on the Bradley Bridge in August. It was supposed to be July 1st, but they're doing some preliminary things first, and they wanted the groundbreaking to coincide with the closure, so it's going to be in August. We don't have an exact date for that yet. I attended the chamber meeting, which was on that same day. Mayor was there. That mayor and I were at like 3 different things together on that same day. And I think that's enough. That's what I got. Oh, I want to give a shout out to what I hope is going to be a certificate coming in the future. My son participated in a Paralympic trials track and field event. That's where I was over the weekend. I was in Chicago. And my son, who was a Paloma Valley graduate, who's paralyzed from the waist down, participates in a wheelchair in shot put, javelin, and discus, qualified for the nationals in all three events, representing the city of Menifee on the national stage and the Paralympic stage. So, yeah, thank you for that. So I'll be going out to Grand Rapids, Michigan in the middle of July for nationals, and maybe when the Paralympics come to LA, we might have a Menifeean up there. So we're looking forward to it. That's all I got.
Thank you. I attended the Temecula State of the City over the past couple of weeks. I attended the Community Partners meeting with Mayor Pro Tem. I held a mini town hall with the Sun City Friends of the Library. They do a quarterly meeting, and I also did a small town hall with Councilman Diedrich over at the Quail Valley meeting. And if you have any organization who would love for me to come speak or answer questions, I would love to make myself available for you. So spread the word. I went to the luau with the Chamber of Commerce. Menifee's Got Talent. Let's see, Sun City Civic Association for the Bradley Bridge opening. We informed the residents how that's going to work out. Let's see, what else do I have here on my notes? The swearing in of the 3 PD officers, Paloma Valley High School graduation. I had a meeting with CAL FIRE to talk about their operations within our city. And I met with a few of the Paris City Council members just to make sure we're being good neighbors and respecting each other's borders. That is all I have. Next, we are on approval of the minutes. There is one set of minutes for the council's consideration. Does the council have any modifications? Hearing none. Can I ask for the city council for an all in favor of approving the June 4th meeting minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay, next, we're on the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are to be approved in one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item on the consent calendar. If an item is removed from the consent calendar, it will be discussed individually and acted upon separately. Unless otherwise directed by a member of the city council, the vote on ordinance adoptions will reflect the prior action of each council member when the ordinance was introduced. However, if a council member is not present at the city council meeting, their vote will be reflected as absent. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on the consent calendar?
There are none.
There are none? Okay. Are there any items the council wishes to pull for further discussion?
10.9, please.
Okay, 10.9. Okay.
Move to approve the balance.
All right, we have a motion to approve the balance. I'll second. Okay, the balance is approved. Councilman Dynas, would you like a presentation, or do you have any questions? Okay.
Want to bring something up here for the council to consider. A part of the fees here is for special events, and the fees for that fall under different categories here. But the inspection and plan check is over $400 plus whatever all the other ones are, and we've kind of lumped every organization into this as opposed to take into consideration like we have for other fees, you know, resident, non-resident, and non-profit. So I think it'd be appropriate for us to have this discussion where we could reduce those fees for the nonprofits here in the city of Menifee. You know, they do give back in the way of different events. They give back away, they raise money to put back into the community. So giving them a break, that's, I don't know if staff would tell me, I don't know what the total amount would be for some kind of a special event, but it's, if it starts at $400 and only goes up, you know, that could be, you know, too costly for a lot of our nonprofits to be able to put on an event, or it eats up most of their proceeds to give back into the community. So, you know, they put on a nice event, but nothing, but, you know, it's a break even for them. And so they don't bother doing it because it's too expensive. So I would like to see this, these fees for local Menifee nonprofits reduced, you know, maybe 25 to 50% of what we're doing. I think what they do and what they put back into the community more than makes up for a little bit of lost revenue. So I just open that up for discussion then.
Councilman Temple.
Yeah, I would support that. I think that our nonprofits provide an incredible service with the focus and goal of increasing the social infrastructure of the city. So I would support that and request that the city look into see how we can reduce those fees for our local nonprofits.
I had a question for staff. Are we going to bring, I remember having discussions on this previously. Is staff working on bringing us back something on reducing for the nonprofits, or how is that? It hasn't started yet? Okay. Oh, yes, Mr. Hickey. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We are not working on an item specifically to reduce fees for nonprofit agencies. There was a fee study done several years ago. Part of the implementation of that fee study was for CPI increases to just take effect automatically. This item was brought to the council really just for awareness that these were the new fees that were going into effect, and also to alert the council that there are some deposits that we were not applying the CPI to those fees. But when the fee study was done, we looked sort of globally at the overall costs involved in the various services that go into a fee, and then based on the staff time and so forth to calculating the fee, that's how the fee level is set, but it's certainly within the council's prerogative to set the fee below the full cost recovery rate if the council chooses to do that. But no, we don't have a specific item on our agenda to bring back lower fees specifically for nonprofits.
City Manager Villa, we had a discussion about this, and we talked about there might be a $700 fee nonprofits pay for events. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, I think what we're finding out is a combination of fees from various departments that have to look at this activity amount to a larger amount, and you know, we are looking at streamlining it and then developing a better fee structure. But what I would suggest that you know, the item before you tonight is to set the rates just based on the CPI increase. But I would suggest that if you're interested in bringing this item, want us to look at this item, that we do a future agenda item for the specific line item, and then we can bring some analysis back to you. And then at that time, you can make a decision whether you want to place the fee structure at a lower percentage as requested.
Okay, thank you for clarification on that. Councilman Dynas, how do you feel?
Well, I think, yeah, I wasn't planning on saying, you know, making a decision tonight, but I think it's something that we return to staff, and I think that as part of the motion here, that I would make a motion that we direct staff to look at special event fees for nonprofits and do it all at once. We'll make it like a third recommended action that the staff has proposed in, and get this taken care of right now. Yeah. That'd be my motion.
That works.
Are you moving to approve with that caveat?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. We have a motion, but I do, for the process here, I do want to open it up. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak from the public on this?
There are none.
There are none? Okay, great. Okay, we do have a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Okay. Okay, and that passes 5-0. Next, we are on public hearing items. This is the 2025 through the 2030 CIP. May I please ask Engineering Manager Carlos Geronimo to the podium, please. Good evening, Mr. Geronimo.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Let's see, getting ready here. Okay.
I'm sorry, 1 second, Mr. Geronimo. Excuse me, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so, well, good evening, everyone. I'm here to present the City of Menifee's fiscal year 2025 through 2030 capital improvement program. Okay. So this slide shows the city's capital improvement program mission statement, which basically states that the CIP division plans for and delivers much-needed infrastructure project that benefits the city's residents over the short, medium, and long term. So our main mission is to provide the residents of the city these projects with taxpayer funds and other funds to benefit the quality of life of our residents in general. Here's the CIP team, starting with our Public Works Director, Nick Fiddler, who can be here tonight. I'm Carlos Geronimo, the Engineering Manager, and we have Diego Guillen, our Senior Engineer, Austin Mills, Assistant Engineer, Rex Caballero, Assistant Engineer, Project Manager Michael To, and our Management Analyst Jenny McConville. This is your team that works here tirelessly in the city to make sure that these infrastructure projects are delivered on time and within schedule and within budget too. So moving on to the 5-year plan and biennial budget adoption. So the CIP budget is developed to have as much public and council input on this program, because it's not just the engineering budget for the city. It's something that the community, we look for the community to have input through the council members. We work with the finance department from beginning to end. So here's kind of the budget timeline for the development of the program. So we had 2 workshops in April 2nd and April 16th of this year, where City Council made recommendations on some of the projects. Some of the projects use Measure DD or Quality of Life funds, and on April 22nd, we took these projects to them to make sure that they conform with the objectives of the Measure DD. On May 7, 2025, our Finance Department held a main budget workshop. On May 14th, we took this project list, our Planning Commission, and they ensured that all the projects listed in the budget conform with the city's general plan and goals. And tonight, here before you, is the adoption of the budget. Okay. So this table shows you the recommendation of what's being recommended for fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27 in all these different categories, transportation through technology infrastructure. So for 25-26, we're recommending 24 projects, which include existing projects and new projects for a total of $13.2 million, roughly. And in 26-27, we're recommending 9 projects for approximately $14.2 million. So in total, for the 2 years, we're recommending 33 projects for $27.4 million. And we're going to go into more detail on each of these categories and what are funding of those projects. So as stated earlier, Measure DD, or Quality of Life, is a key component to bridge those funding gaps in our programs. So for fiscal year 25-26, we're proposing to use $1.1 million, or $1.2 million roughly, and in 26-27, $125,000. Okay. Any questions so far? And feel free to ask any questions as I go along.
Council, any questions? Hearing none? Yep, please continue.
All right. So as part of the CIP, and it's important to note that the CIP budget is kind of a living document. Priorities and funding from the city change over time. Every year there's something new or something that comes up that is prioritized. And So these are a couple examples of two projects, the above-ground fuel station that was programmed back in 2022 and the Bailey Park Boulevard in 2022 as well. So these two projects are being recommended to be on hold because they're part of a larger project. For example, the above-ground fuel station is being programmed to, or the new maintenance and operations center that is programmed in the 5-year budget will include this as part of that project. So we're putting this on hold until we know the actual impacts of this project that we'll have on the actual facility. That way we don't have to redo or have to demolish something that we just built. So instead of having those funds, because they use general funds, we're recommending that those funds be reprogrammed to some projects that are needed immediately. They are not going to be taken out of the program. They're still staying there, just in case later on we decide to move forward with them on standalone. Okay, so those two projects that were identified have a total of $2,473,000, which are being recommended in the tables below. So $1.4 million has been recommended for payment management projects and Banner Park Village Playground enhancements. And there's also 3 projects on the table to the right. Those are projects that are being recommended by our Parks Commission, and they'll be brought forth to City Council later as staff is doing the analysis on this project to make sure that we know the actual fiscal impacts of each project. For example, the E.L. Peterson Park is next to Salt Creek, which is an environmental sensitive area. So we have to make sure that we do our due diligence, that we don't negatively impact some of these areas and that we're not in violation of some environmental rules. So once we know the true impacts and costs of these projects, we'll bring this project forward to council for appropriation of these funds.
Question, Mr. Geronimo.
Yes.
Sports lighting can affect Salt Creek?
Yes, believe it or not. For example, the Paloma Wash pedestrian bridge project that's on Paloma Wash, we had to do a shade study because it was an area that's very small, but it was going to be in the shade. So we had to do some studies on how that is going to affect the wildlife that lives in that area. And same thing when we have high intensity lighting, for example, at night, how is that going to affect, or is it going to affect the environment in that area?
Thank you. Councilman Dynas.
Thank you. On the Banner Park Playground, you've got 200,000 allocated in the first fiscal year.
Right.
I guess the question is, why are we funding other things if we don't even know what fiscal year we're going to put those in and just let this languish out there? Why not fund that, get it finished, and then move on to other projects? Because, this has been built, it's there, we've got the residents there have been asking for this, for a playground, because there's none there to take their families to, their kids there. And so I'm just curious, why are we postponing this and then allocating money elsewhere that we don't even know when it's going to happen to other projects?
Yeah, so for the Banner Park specifically, we're allocating it for fiscal year 25-26, $200,000, right? This is to initiate the design of it. And also we're allocating, and you'll see later on the slides, additional funding for the construction of it. So we are proposing 1 year to do the design of the project and the second fiscal year to do the construction of it.
So it'll take a full year to design the project?
It would take less. It's just when the money is being programmed for construction. So, and we'll go into that slide later on.
Right, I understand that, but, if we're going to set money aside and we can get this done and then take up the money you have in in what, 26, 27, and then allocate it to these other projects, at least we can get one project done and still have money allocated, and instead of let that just sit there waiting for a fiscal year to turn over so we can then allocate more money and get this project finished.
Right. So this is a recommendation. It's up to the councils. If you want to move some of those, for example, we have $400,000 on one of those parks that has DVD. We can course, transfer over to Banner Park, so we're fully funded the first year, and we don't have to wait another fiscal year for it.
Well, that'd be my recommendation, but I'd have to, I'd open it up to council's, comments on that as well.
So the 200,000 for Banner Park, you mentioned, Mr. Geronimo, is for the design.
Yeah, it mainly will fund the design. There'll be some leftover money from it.
And so if we were to fully fund Banner Park, we could have that done in 25, 26?
Yeah, if the design is, happens to be maybe 3 to 6 months, so we can be ready to advertise after 6 months for the construction of it.
Got it. Thoughts, council? I like the sports lighting at the parks. It gives, I mean, they're all three parks. I mean, we're going to be giving use to the youth every day with all three uses. Councilman Diedrich.
Do we know the number to fully fund Banner Park?
Mr. Geronimo, do we have an estimate to how much it is to fully fund Banner Park?
Okay, since I have Bryce Howell here right next to me, he can answer that question.
So we're estimating 500,000 for the complete project cost. And then the $300,000 that is, I'll let Travis explain this one. Sorry.
Just to clarify, I believe all of the funds for this project are available. This 200,000 being reprogrammed for fiscal year 25-26 is going to take care of the design. For 26-27, there's the bond premium that was initially identified as a funding source for this project, and that is programmed for 26-27. That's based on understanding that it will take a year to do the design and get the project ready. But if that advances quicker, that bond premium could be made available as soon as 25-26. So I think to answer the question, I believe the project has full funding to move forward at this time.
Thank you. That's what was my concern is that, you design it and you set it on the shelf until 26, 27 to start construction on it, because that's when you've allocated additional money for it. But if it can be done quicker and there's money for it already, then that's perfect, then thanks.
Yeah. So if that's your decision, then we can reprogram those monies that are in the 26-27 and bring it to 25-26. Or if we are ready, we can advance that, as Mr. Hickey said. At that time, we can just come to council and just reprogram those funds right then.
That'd be great if as soon as those funds become available, then to bring it back and get moving on it.
I just following up on that. So if the designs, is it typical for the design for something like this to take 12 months or 10 to 12?
It depends on the complexity of the project. Every project is different. I know in this, for example, on this project, there is an easement from, I believe, flood control. I can't remember.
The reason I'm asking is there a benefit to the city to let the construction funds sit for an extra year and maybe make a few $1,000s on it, then move it up if it's not ready to build yet? Is that something we can access quickly? Is it earning any money in whatever account it's in? Or is it just in a savings account?
Maybe small interest.
I mean, is the interest 0.0001% like my savings account?
With respect to the bond premium, the city has received those funds, and they are commingled in the city's pool of treasury funds, and so
it's not like in a CD or something where it's going to grow 8% over the year.
It's invested in LAIF and our long-term securities, and right now interest rates are good, so it's about 4%. So we are earning interest on those.
Who's
funds.
doing the design? Is it us or is it a consulting firm?
We will hire a consulting firm, and it takes about 3 months from the advertise to award of that consulting.
Oh, so that's not even awarded yet?
No, not yet.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
That'd be fine, yeah, if we can, start working on it and bring it back as soon as possible so, the families can start enjoying it, because it's a nice park, but nowhere, to play on unless, it has a splash pad, which is great, but, in the fall, in wintertime, that's not exactly the kind of activities you want your kids doing in that time. So if we could get something moving on, that'd be great, so by the fall or so, if we could have something for them to do at that park, that'd be great.
Okay, noted.
Can we toughen our youth by leaving the splash pad open all year round? Get some kids out there in January and let them know what it feels like?
Okay, thank you. Please continue, Mr. Geronimo.
Okay. So next we have reserve funds. Reserve funds support strategic capital projects, and usually we set aside, these are set aside monies for our, usually our larger CIP capital projects. So reserve funds are not included in the CIP budget expenditure because they are set aside. It's not something that we're asking to be programmed to be spent in a specific fiscal year. But when the intended phase is ready to begin, we will come back to council and appropriate those funds, and then it'll become part of the CIP budget. So for this fiscal year, we'll identify two projects. One is public facilities, is a new community center, which has $3.9 million, and that comes out of the Rockford Ranch mitigation fee. And also some additional quality of life money, $1.2 million for the McCall Boulevard interchange project. We want to start setting aside some money for that much-needed infrastructure project, and we can leverage those funds, especially for McCall Boulevard or the other projects, to be used for grants, for example, as our matching funds. All right. So the following slide pretty much lists the full five-year project summary by category. It shows the amount of infrastructure project needs and the cost of all these projects for over the next 5 fiscal years. And we have great need in the transportation categories and also public facilities to support our growing staff and needs of the city. Next, we'll go into the details of the 25-27 and 5-year project list. Yes.
One moment. Could you go back to that last slide, please?
Let me go back. Yep.
You're showing here you have two infrastructure, technology infrastructures going on, but on slide 6, though, you showed 0 on that slide. But when you did the summary at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, because this is the...
Let's go out to the future ones?
Yeah.
Okay, because, I see, okay.
Yeah.
So these are, does have both current, the ones that are going to happen, and the ones that might be happening in the future?
Yeah,
then?
this is the full 5-year program.
Okay, thank you.
The table prior was only the 2-year program. All right, for transportation projects, this is the breakdown of the funds that we're requesting. So there's 5 projects in this list. For 25-26, we're asking for $1.9 million and $400,000 for 26-27. Okay. Just take a minute for you guys to read it. If you have any questions, please feel free.
At what point do we ask WRCOG for money for the McCall interchange?
It depends on the phase. Those monies are for either preliminary engineering, which cover planning, engineering, and right-of-way acquisition and construction. So depending on which phase we're in the project. For example, McCall Boulevard, if we're ready to start construction, then we'll start engaging WRCOG so we can get those monies into the program. I believe WRCOG on that note already gave us more than $2 million for the design phase of this project. Okay, so this is the 5-year list for the transportation program. So there's 32 projects in total.
Mr. Geronimo, I remember, and I just want to say this for the record, I remember last year council added a priority 3 to a sidewalk off of Getz Road, and I don't see it here, but it will be added.
You'll see it in the street improvement list. This transportation is for when we do the full widening of mile-plus segments of a project. So major transportation projects.
Okay.
For example, a trail or a sidewalk, it's a street improvement, so it falls within that category.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
For traffic signal projects, next fiscal year, we're funding 2 projects for $1 million. Getz Road Waste Away traffic signal and Evans Road correct traffic signal. Okay. And this is the 5-year list for the traffic signal projects.
Oh, Mr. Geronimo, how far are we away from the Getz Road Vista Way traffic signal being completed?
So we are currently at 90% design on that project. So we're expecting over the next 3 to 4 months, we'll be ready to advertise on that project and probably start construction either the beginning of next year, around that timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, for street improvement projects, there is, I think, 8 projects listed here. So we're asking for 25-26, $2.2 million, and on 26-27 for $850,000. And let's say here on these projects that are in red, the ones that say HIP 12, those are grant funds that we received through the state. And this is the 5-year list for the improvement projects. And you can see Getz Road, PW
There it is.
IMP 24. Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right, for payment management, we have 5 projects listed here. $3.2 million for 25-26 and $3.5 for 26-27. So this next slide shows you the where the locations of those payment management programs are going to be. Okay, it's 25-26 and 26-27. And the next slide shows the 5-year program. There's a total of 20 projects. Okay. So this next slide shows all the drainage projects proposed for 25-26, $1.3 million, and 26-27, $1.6 million. It's worthy to note that where it says on the fund column, where it says capital projects, so we've received roughly $1.7 million from Riverside County Flood Control. They're partnering with us, with the city, on the Garbani Road drainage improvements and the McLaughlin drainage improvement projects. And this is the 5-year list for the drainage projects. Next are the streetlight projects. We don't have anything proposed for the next 2 years, but we have in the 5-year list the 2 projects that were identified. And these are mainly for rural areas, and this could grow. It depends on the city needs.
Mr. Geronimo, are these going to be solar or
These
not?
are solar, yeah. Mainly that's what we're trying to do in these rural areas because the infrastructure, electric infrastructure may not be there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Public facility projects, we're recommending 3 projects over the next 2 fiscal years. So $2.9 million in 25-26 and $7.5 in 26-27. So the big one here being the Heritage Lakes Fire Station, and these funds come from a developer contribution, I believe from the Menifee Hills development. That's funding pretty much $10 million for the design and construction of this project. And this is the 5-year list for the public facilities. For parks, recreation, and trail projects, we are proposing 3 projects, $650,000 for 25-26 and $387,000 for 26-27. And you can see the Banner Park playground enhancements. So those are the CFD contributions, bond premiums. So when we're ready, we can move that project or those funds forward in 25-26, and if we're ready then.
Mr. Geronimo, while we're on parks, and Mayor Pro Tem brought it up earlier, how is the amphitheater coming along?
Sure, we are working with a contractor, and that may be a separate discussion altogether, but we are working with a contractor to do the fabrication of the actual glue laminated beams. That's the next component of it. All the foundation walls are already finished. So the next phase, major phase of the project is the actual shell of it. Because the beams are glue laminated and have this double curvature, so it's kind of a three-dimensional type looking beams. So it's very complex, and that takes a little bit of time to engineer, manufacture, and deliver those beams. We are working with our management office on providing you with a memorandum, pretty much explaining you where we are on this project and what the path forward is for the project itself.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would like a little bit more details from staff on specific timelines and how everything's going, and I would like some clear answers, please. Yeah. I see Councilman Diedrich in the queue.
Yeah, thank you. Just tangentially related to that, I see the work every day on the parking lot that will help serve the amphitheater. Do we have a time frame on that for the completion?
Sure, the parking lot project is progressing very well. We're within schedule. I believe the contractor has 120 working days, so it's another 3 months they have to go through. So I think a lot of the trees, landscaping already in. They're scheduling the paving in July 24, I believe, around that timeline. So soon you should see, by the end of next month, parking lot more in place.
Thank you.
So, and this is the 5-year list for the Parks, Trails, and Recreation projects, 17 total. Okay. And last but not least.
Really quick.
Go ahead.
On this list for Parks, Recreation, and Trails, the priority for Quail Valley Trail fence replacement, did we have a workshop earlier this year saying we decided, or there was a recommendation that it be greenery that replaces it? And I see Mr. Howell there. Mr. Howell, can you bring clarification to this fence replacement?
Yes, so since it was it's actually on our CIP list from previous years, but the funding for it, I believe, is considered now a capital outlay to be able to repair and do the irrigation, the greenery, so it would be a green fence that's there to repair all that, remove the last little bits of the existing fence. So it will still be completed this year. That's coming up, but it's a capital outlay using that funding.
Copy. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, and the last slide is the technology infrastructure project. You don't think as server rooms or IT components being infrastructure, but they're becoming more and more critical and key to our operations within the city. So we have 2 projects. They're already they're already ongoing, and there's a list of 2. Okay, and I believe the City Hall backup generator is pretty much completed, at least the phase to make sure that our server rooms are always powered even when there's a energy loss of energy.
Mr. Geronimo, the City Hall generator, that's not funded at all, right? Or do we have funding put aside for that?
The City Hall backup generator?
Yeah.
It is funded for.
It's funded?
Yeah, and I believe it is almost complete.
So we had a phase 1 of that. We had 2 different phases, so there's 2 different options we can do on that. Right now, we actually just completed about a week ago, the generator for City Hall, but what it does is power the IT server rooms, the backup IT server area inside the electrical room. So if we have power out, it may not be able to use for the whole facility, but we don't lose any of the infrastructure for IT related. Our servers go down, because if they go down, it takes a long time for them to come back up, obviously. And also on that, IT has purchased the backup battery system that's getting installed too, so that'll help. So when Edison cuts out power, we've already actually used it one night last Friday, Saturday morning at 2 a.m., Edison was cutting the power, and we were able to use the generator to keep everything running. So we're actually already used that. The other phase of that would be using a whole generator for the whole facility, but that is a very large generator to be able to do that, and we're debating or we're discussing on if we want to spend the funding and do that on this actual facility, since we don't own it, until we build an actual City Hall. Something we move, obviously we can move it with us, but it is a big cost that way. So we want to make sure we got taking care of at least the IT stuff right now. So we
Okay,
don't
that-
lose any of that information.
Okay, that makes sense. Perfect. All right, thank you.
And with that, that's the end of my presentation. I know you've asked some questions, but do you have any additional questions? Feel free to ask.
Okay, council, do we have any other questions? Hearing none. Okay, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing at 7:05. Madam Clerk, can you confirm this public hearing was legally noticed and if any correspondence has been received?
It was legally noticed, and we received no correspondence.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, any requests to speak today in person?
There are none.
None? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:06. Council, do we have any other comments or discussion we'd like to have? I see Mayor Pro Tem in the queue.
Yeah, I just want to commend staff on this presentation. You know, we get a lot of folks who come to us and say, you know what we should do? And I say, what would you like to see done? And they tell me, and I can open up the book and show them on what page we've already got it allotted. There are very few things from a structural or infrastructural standpoint in the city of Menifee that need to be done that haven't been considered and at least put on this list. And so I just want to thank staff for thinking of just about everything and getting us on a 5-year path. So I commend staff greatly and everybody who was involved in putting this together.
Any other comments? Seeing none? Okay. Now we can have a motion and a second to approve. Motion approved. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, and that passes 5-0. Thank you to the entire staff who worked so hard on that. Thank you so much. Next, we are on 11.2, first reading and introduction of an ordinance to amend Menifee Municipal Code Title 5, Business Regulations, Title 7, Subdivisions, and Title 9, Planning and Zoning. Could I please ask Acting Director Orlando Hernandez to introduce the item? Good evening, Mr. Hernandez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Excited to be here today. I would like to acknowledge both Kimberly Luna and Doug Darnell for all the amount of time and work they put in on this code amendment. This is a process that has taken us months, and it's an accumulation of different things that we've been wanting to change over the last 2 years as we work with the code and work with developers and people and see an opportunity to improve our code to make it more user-friendly and obviously to help us do our jobs a lot better. So what you're gonna hear today is obviously a very thorough presentation, but most of the presentation has to do with state mandates that we have to make changes to our code. That's probably about 65% of the changes that we're proposing. The other 35% are cleanup items that we've identified over time and some suggestions that we're proposing as well. So with that, I would like to introduce Associate Planner Kimberly Luna to make the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Luna.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Oh, it's automatic now. Thank you, Orlando. So good evening, Mayor and council members. The item before you is the city-initiated municipal code amendment, LR 24-0135. So like Orlando has mentioned, these amendments are part of the city-initiated effort to ensure that our local code stays aligned with the state law. And beyond the legal compliance, we're also doing updates to streamline procedures, clarify standards, clean up, and improve the usability of the code for residents, applicants, and city staff. So the proposed amendments tonight will cover, will be in Title 5, 7, and 9. So starting with Title 5, which covers our business regulations. These amendments update the city's municipal code to align with Senate Bill 1186, SB 1186, allows for the delivery of medicinal cannabis to qualified patients and their primary caregivers. The proposed changes update the language in these chapters to allow for the sale of medicinal cannabis by delivery. It's important to note that the city's current limitations on non-medical cannabis will remain unaffected by the proposed modifications. This includes continuing to prohibit recreational cannabis sales for recreational use. In addition, businesses establishing a physical delivery logistics location, that is a facility used to manage medical cannabis deliveries, will be subject to a new special business license requirement. This provision works in tandem with the land use updates in Title IX, which we will cover later in the presentation. Next, with Title VII, here we had minor updates where we simplified the findings for tentative maps, and we also made amendments to the grading regulations to conform with the California Building Code and the California Residential Code. Next, with Title IX, here's a brief overview of the proposed sections and chapters being amended. For this presentation tonight, I'm going to focus on the key changes and as well as the state law updates. Starting with our zoning standards, I'll walk through the updates to our 4 zoning chapters that address both cleanup items and policy updates. Starting with our agricultural and rural residential zones, we added a new note to clarify that residential dwellings can be built on non-conforming lots. This clarification ensures that smaller lots can still contribute to new housing, and this policy is currently in our general plan. In our residential zones chapter, we've removed duplexes and multifamily allowed uses in the LDR 1 and LTR 2 zones to align with the general plan, which calls for single-family residences. Then in our commercial and industrial zones, we've made several updates. Won't go through all of them, but we did remove the floor area ratio for business park and high industrial zones. This allows for a more flexible design. Then in our economic development corridor zones, these updates mirror a lot of the updates from in the commercial and industrial zones, with one addition where we've removed several standards related to standalone residential development. Overall, these updates will bring our zoning regulations into better alignment with the general plan, the market, and state housing goals. Next, we'll look at the updates on general development and accessory structures. We've made several improvements, and these will provide clarity and better organization to both of these chapters. This is to provide clearer guidance for the public and the staff. I won't discuss all of these up here, but one that we did do was we did remove the plot plan requirement for accessory structures. This will streamline the process for residents. So the accessory structures will now be reviewed under building permits. Next, I'll cover 4 amendments to our special use standards, starting with the animal keeping chapter. We updated the animal keeping standards to match the permitted uses in the residential zoning districts. There was just a conflict, and so we just corrected the conflict. Then with our alcohol beverage sales chapter, the current code, as it stands, only allows bars, tasting rooms, and other similar uses if they are incidental to a primary use, like a restaurant, nightclub, comedy club. This amendment removes that restriction and allows standalone alcohol serving establishments like bars, wineries, tasting rooms, brew pubs, and these would operate with a conditional use permit. These amendments will maintain oversight with the conditional use permit and offer more flexibility for business owners. Then with our outdoor sales display chapter, this amendment increases the allowed display area from 25% to 40%, or 10 linear feet, whichever is greater. And for the larger retail stores over 50,000 square feet, they can apply for additional display area through an amendment to a plot plan. And finally, with our tattoo establishments, we're proposing to eliminate this chapter. After doing some research, we found out that most nearby cities treat tattoo shops as a personal service use without special restrictions. This change simplifies the approval process by removing the CUP requirement. And this is a staff recommendation based on staff's research and isn't associated with any specific project or pending application. Next,
Can I ask a question about that
Yeah.
since we're on that? Can you go back one slide, please? So that chapter 9.265, I was just looking at it, and the current code has a development standard where it includes tattoo establishments shall not be located, 1, 2, 3, within 500 feet of another one, 500 feet of any place that sells alcohol, and 500 feet of a school or church or playground, that kind of thing. Are those standards being removed by doing this, or are those standards going to carry over as personal services?
those standards are being removed by removing the chapter.
So by removing this chapter and defining tattoo establishments as personal services, all of these location restrictions go away and it can exist anywhere any other personal service establishment can be. The eyebrow threading, nail salon, anything like that.
Correct.
Okay, I'll withhold comment till later. Thanks.
May I say something? I also have a question. I was going to wait until the presentation was done, but I think Bob opened it up here. I'm looking at these things. The two that I just have concerns about, simply that I think they merit further discussion, is the changes to 9.250 alcoholic beverages sale and consumption, and this one 9.265 tattoo establishments. The reasoning you gave about tattoo establishments, I think if I remember what you said, it was like, well, all the other cities are doing it this way. And I was looking, kind of Googling tattoo establishments images, and I didn't see any in cities surrounding us that I think. I guess I'm discussing right now, aren't I? I'm not asking a question. Is this okay?
I would.
Refrain?
It sounds like we're going to have a healthy discussion on it.
I'll
and
refrain.
so if you have questions, let's do the
I'm
questions.
sorry, I have no question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I would like to follow up with one question. Again, on the development standard for tattoo establishments, it says on the current code, the conditional use permit shall address the type of floor and work surfaces, tattooing of minors, disposal of needles, etc. Is that going to go away also?
Yes, with the chapter being removed, all of those standards are also being removed.
So we don't have any standards other than this current state law as it pertains to, say, tattooing of minors, disposal of needles, anything like that. It's just whatever the state law says.
Yes, with the state law.
And is our standard more restrictive than the current state law? Is it identical to the current state law or more permissive?
Most likely it's more restrictive than what the state currently has.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Luna, I see no more questions on that portion. Please continue.
So next, we'll talk about 4 pieces of legislation from the state requiring the state code, requiring the city to update the code. So like Title V, we are also updating Title IX, our hookah and marijuana chapter, in order to comply with Senate Bill 1186. Again, the state law prohibits cities from banning the delivery of medicinal cannabis to qualified patients and their caregiver. And again, this change doesn't affect the city's rules on recreational cannabis. Storefront retail and adult use cannabis still remains prohibited under our code. And while SB 1186 removes the local ban on delivery on medical cannabis, it does allow cities to set reasonable regulations on physical delivery logistics locations. This is where the cannabis will be processed. So the city is proposing to permit medical cannabis delivery businesses in the business park zone, and these would be subject to a CUP. We did add a new section to this chapter that outlines standards for these businesses. These standards include a 500 separation requirement from sensitive receptors, operational standards, and security requirements. These standards were modeled based on the bill and from other jurisdictions. And as for SB 1211, this is related to accessory dwelling units. This bill was signed into law September of 2024. It took effect this year, January 1st. And so under previous law, a lot with an existing or proposed multifamily could have up to 2 detached ADUs. And with SB 1211, this expanded that to existing multifamily dwellings to build up to 8 detached ADUs, with the condition that the total number of ADUs doesn't exceed the number of units on the lot. So if you have a multifamily residence with 5 units, you can't build 8, you can only build 5, so you can't exceed what's already existing. And it's important to note that this doesn't apply to a project that's being proposed. In that case, it's still limited to 2 detached ADUs. The next item is a proposed amendment on urban lot splits and 2-unit developments. This was originally approved to our development code in early 2024, and this implements the provisions of SB 9. And then in September of 2024, the state passed Senate Bill 450, which modified and expanded some requirements originally set in SB 9. Some of the key changes were procedural deadlines, objective standards, these must apply to all projects, and we can't deny, in physical environment, we can't deny a project based on environmental impacts. Next, I'll be discussing new legislation related to small-scale housing subdivisions, specifically Senate Bill 684 and Senate Bill 1123, which are reflected in a proposed new section in the city's development code. SB 684 was signed into law October of 2023, and this became effective July 1st of last year. This bill allows for the subdivisions of parcels zoned for multifamily residential uses, providing that they are less than 5 acres in size. And then under this law, qualifying parcels can be subdivided up to 10 lots, with each having a minimum size of 600 square feet. It's important to know that the number of lots created and the number of units allowed are not mutually exclusive. For example, a property could be divided into 4 lots and still be eligible to develop up to 8 units as long as they're meeting the parcel size and density requirements. Then in September of 2024, SB 1123 was adopted to expand these provisions, and now it will apply to vacant parcels up to 1.5 acres that are zoned for single-family residential use, and this will become effective July 1st of this year. These subdivisions must meet a minimum lot size of 1,200 square feet. And overall, both of these bills are intended to encourage small-scale infill housing development. This project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15061 Common Sense Exemption, as the proposed municipal code is required to comply with state law, and there is no possibility that the municipal code amendments will have a significant impact on the environment. In conclusion, staff recommends that City Council find Municipal Code number LR 24-0135 exempt from further environmental review under CEQA and direct staff to file a notice of exemption and to introduce an ordinance approving Municipal Code Amendment number LR 24-0135 to amend Title 5, 7, and 9 of the Menifee Municipal Code. With that, staff's happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Ms. Luna, great job presenting. We appreciate that. Council, do we have any questions, just questions at this time? Okay, I see Mayor Pro Tem.
Going back to that 9.265, I've got a question for PD. I don't know which one of our captains, Gutierrez, would like to take it. As an admitted square with no tattoos, I want to make sure that my questions are completely unfounded. Somebody turn off Councilman Diedrich's microphone for 10 minutes. We had a long discussion when it came to marijuana ordinances about law enforcement's feelings on allowing establishments, whether that was a crime draw or not. And public opinion tends to lump in tattoo establishments with that kind of marijuana establishment. We're not allowing marijuana establishments here, but deliveries being allowed by the state. is there any correlation between the two in the eyes of law enforcement? Does law enforcement have any opinions on removing these restrictions that are currently in the code in favor of what staff is recommending? Does law enforcement want them, not want them, don't care?
Related to medicinal marijuana deliveries or tattoo establishments?
Tattoo establishments. The medicinal marijuana things we don't have any say in. We're just complying with state law. This one is our choice.
Yeah, I would say years ago there was quite a bit of stigma around tattoo parlors, but my personal opinion and based on my experience in law enforcement, those establishments really don't draw the clientele that raises concerns for law enforcement above what any other business would raise.
So, and the other part of the code that's going away would be the tattooing of minors, disposal of needles, prohibition of alcoholic beverages, other health and safety requirements. Is Menifee PD satisfied with the state standards on those things?
So I would have to look at some of those things to be able to effectively give you a response on behalf of the police department, specifically related to tattooing of minors and things like that.
Because I think now it's age 18.
Yes, you have to be 18.
That's the standard. So
without
I mean, we're not allowing below age 18 anyway.
No, absolutely not. We wouldn't want to do that yet.
Okay, but just, and I didn't expect that you would, but Menifee PD hasn't looked at this code proposal as it pertains to law enforcement at all. Has Menifee PD signed off on this at all?
No, sir.
Okay, and I don't mean that you haven't signed off. I mean that you haven't reviewed it.
Right, correct.
Okay, so but as we're talking about this right now, as this discussion's coming up and the issues that I was raising, Menifee PD has no problem with the standards that would remain based on these changes.
Not from a law enforcement perspective, no.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you so much.
Council, any other questions at this time? Okay, Councilman Dynas.
Thank you. On SB 1186, it was slide 13, chapter 9.275. It said cities must allow delivery of it, and the next bullet point was new standards for medical cannabis delivery businesses, physical logistics locations. Is that part of the SB 1186 that we have to allow physical locations within the city limits?
Yes.
For that? Okay, I wasn't too sure.
We must allow those physical locations. This won't be a storefront. It's everything in the back being processed. They'll be delivering from those to the caregiver patient.
And are there any kind of requirements, state or city, that will help, have to be certainly secured or something like that? So, and I would think that the PD would have, this would probably the area that have more problems with, if, unless it's secured and, it's not a storefront, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't look like one for the delivery. I think it's almost like it's not a controlled substance, but when you have that type of thing, they have a tendency to have break-ins and things like that.
Councilmember Dynas, we did consult with PD as we were putting together the requirements and standards for this type of use. This use would require a CUP, so we both, PD and planning, feel comfortable that if a use comes in, we have the tools to restrict it, put restrictions in place that would give us a good feeling in terms of allowing one if we have to.
City Attorney Melching, did you have input, sir?
It turned out that Mr. Hernandez did a great job. Yeah.
All right.
Can we ban weed-related puns in the names?
Would you like to make a motion? All right, Council, do we have any other questions? Seeing none in the queue, okay. I will open up the public hearing now at 7:29. Madam Clerk, can you confirm this public hearing was legally noticed and if any correspondence has been received?
This item was legally noticed and no correspondence was received.
Okay, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No public comments.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing now at 7:29. Okay, Council, this is our time to discuss or share any comments, if we have any. Okay. Oh, you do?
I do have a comment.
Okay,
yeah.
Councilman
So,
Dynas. go.
First, I want to apologize to Ms. Luna for going on and making a speech. So I'm kind of, I'm just kind of concerned with the. Get my glasses on. The conditions related to both tattoos and bars. You know, when these chapters were written, I'm sure they were written with a lot of deliberation. And the chapter that is removing the conditions for tattoo parlors, you know, at one point those talked about sensitive receptors. You know, the city said they can't be within 500 feet of a school, a church, a park, a residence, things like that. And we're removing all of those conditions. And like I said, you know, you can look at images of certain establishments, and that's not to speak against the, you know, the desire for people to go out and get a drink or get a tattoo. But, you know, you can look at these places, and they're not always, they don't always create the best environment. They're not a place where you want to leave your car necessarily sometimes. And, you know, I'm just wondering, when the city established these conditions, they deliberated a long time. Are we removing these chapters and changing these conditions to the detriment of the city? You know, you can think of great establishments coming, but do we also see the possibility of very undesirable establishments wanting to be here, meeting the conditions or the lack of conditions, and establishing themselves here and not having it what we desired because we've changed or removed the conditions because all the other cities do it? Now, I'm just wondering, are we doing something that's going to change the culture of a neighborhood or a city? Is that a place where, you know, gosh, I'd like this place to go up in my neighborhood, you know, over by the Rite Aid. I'd love that. No, I wouldn't. Are we condemning other people in our city to that by changing these conditions? So I just want to state that and hear what my fellow members have to say.
Well, since I'm the one who brought it up, I think I'll respond. You know, I admit that I don't go to tattoo parlors, and I've got a very old school view of what they represent, but I was just doing a quick online search of tattoo establishments in Murrieta and the surrounding communities, and I don't think somebody's gonna. By the way, you have a Rite Aid in your neighborhood? You're like the last person to have a Rite Aid in your neighborhood.
It's closed. It's the closed Rite Aid.
Where is it in your neighborhood? But my concern isn't so much of whether or not, you know, if you put a tattoo parlor next to a middle school that, you know, 10-year-olds are going to start getting tattoos. I'm not too worried about that. And if people want to get tattoos, that's personal freedom. I'm all for that as well. You're not hurting anybody by inking yourself up. I was more concerned with that these restrictions were established because of the perception of criminality that goes along with those establishments. And I think that over time, the stigma has changed, the attitude has changed, and I'll admit that I was playing devil's advocate a little bit because I wanted to try to get everything out, and that's why I was so reliant on law enforcement. You know, I know we went through this with massage parlors, which was a different issue altogether, and there's whole special tactics forces on PDs all over the place on massage parlors and things like that, but those don't exist for tattoo parlors. And so I think if Menifee PD is fine with the restrictions removed, I think I'm willing to bring myself into the year 2025. I'm always reminded of a Jimmy Buffett lyric when it comes to tattoos. That is a permanent reminder of a temporary feeling. And you know, if you want to do that, then so be it. But for me, I'm persuaded by what Captain Gutierrez was saying, that Menifee PD is not concerned with it, and if they're not concerned with it, then the concerns that I would have had are gone away as well.
Councilman Diedrich.
Yeah, I think I missed it. I'm glad you're still up there, because this is actually more of a question than a comment that I should have hit before. They were allowable previously, just with further restrictions, right? And correct?
That's correct, and with approval of a CUP. And if you allow me to maybe add a couple more comments. a CUP as currently written requires approval by the Planning Commission, and it will be under what we call a major CUP. Starting July, the fee will slightly go up, but we're looking at a fee of approximately $17,000 for a major CUP, which that would be the type of fee that would have to be paid by a potential business owner. So that's one thing, and that's one thing that we took into consideration. I can also offer maybe a couple other suggestions as well for council to consider as well. We do have the option of doing a minor CUP, which not only that reduces the fee significantly, but also gives us the ability to apply some conditions as well, and that will be through an administrative process. So the fee goes down from $17 to roughly $4,500. It will still be as CUP, and we will still have the ability to apply some conditions if council feels that's important for us to do. I think we can accomplish a little bit of both by doing that, but I'll leave it up to council.
So I guess I had a question along those lines, but telling me that it was a major CUP with $17,000 fee, that probably answered. I was going to ask, we don't have any in the city currently. How many people have shown any interest in opening a tattoo establishment in
we
the
had
city?
one about a year and a half ago. Rent was too high, and not too many available spaces.
I mean,
so and that's one of the reasons we started looking into it, because that potential business owner did indicate that our requirements were a little bit strict. So we look into it, and this is how we.
Thank you. And I know we're establishing policy here, but what I'm getting at is we don't have any currently. We don't have much vacancy. In reality, I don't see a ton of tattoo shops coming into the city of Menifee, regardless of whether we make this change or not. So I'm just not overly concerned that we're going to have a glut of tattoo establishments coming to be in Menifee.
Mr. Hernandez, a follow-up on that. Can you explain the rationale with the $17,000 CUP compared to the $45,000? Is the intent to deter with the high fee, or what does the $17,000 actually accomplish?
Well, remember these are requirements that were put in place when the code was originally implemented. Fees back then were probably significantly lower as well, right? So the requirement back then was a conditional use permit that required approval by the Planning Commission, right? So fees in place, it's to basically recover staff cost and the processing of that application. And right now, the processing cost for a major CUP, it's that amount.
Got it. Thank you. Councilman Temple, you're next, and then Councilman Dinas.
Okay, I do have a question about the alcohol. So it removes the requirement to have some other purpose, comedy club, restaurant, those types of things. So the change in this chapter essentially allow, a corner building with the, neon sign and just that's all it is a drinking inside? Is that what this would allow?
The short answer is yes. The intent, as you know, economic development is actively pursuing different type of businesses, and we want to attract a wine bar. We want to attract different type of establishments that it's mainly alcohol sales. Our current code would not allow that type of business. So we will require a CUP. So if we do get a business that we have some concerns with, we have the ability again to apply restrictions and conditions. And if we get a business that it's not acting in good faith, we have the ability to go back and revoke the CUP and take the licenses away as well. So we do have that ability.
Thank you.
Councilman Dinas.
Thank you. I'm going to share my ignorance with everyone when it comes to tattoo parlors, but do they have to have a license like a barber or a hairstylist? So, because my main concern, tattoos are now mainline, mainstream. It's not, what it used to be when, okay, this was back in the 50s and 60s, but it was mostly, the military and, and bad guys and stuff like that. Now it's now it's not that funny. But now, but my concern is the health and safety part of it, and that law that's been taken out now, and that at least there's protocols that they have to follow to make sure that the needles and all this other stuff that has to happen. So that's my that was my one concern. So I appreciate you answering that. So it's one of those things where now it's the thing to do, and for some people, and for others not. But to have the ability to have someone come here and open shop and do that if they want to and can afford it, then I don't think we should be standing in the way for that. That's all I got. Thank you. I support that.
Councilman Dynas, Mayor, if I could just very briefly, tattoo artists are not regulated at the state level. They're regulated at the county level through county health departments. The state has required that counties do that. They have to take a battery of courses that include an annual bloodborne pathogens training course and things along those lines to make sure that the work that they do is sanitary and safe.
I appreciate the clarification on that.
Okay, Council, I see no one else in the queue to speak. No other comments? Okay. I don't see any other comments. Madam Clerk, can you introduce the ordinance?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Menifee, California, approving Municipal Code Amendment Number LR 24-0135, which amends Title V for business regulations, Title VII for subdivisions, and Title IX for planning and zoning of the Menifee Municipal Code.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, can I get a motion and a second to approve the recommended actions as presented? I'll make a motion. That passes 5-0. Next, we are on discussion items. This is the adoption of fiscal year 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 budget. Could I please ask Director Hickey to provide the presentation? Welcome back, Mr. Hickey.
Good evening again. Okay, good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, city staff, members of the public. I'm Travis Hickey, CFO for the city, and it's my pleasure to be here this evening to present the final installment of the two-year budget covering fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27. And I've mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating that the preparation and adoption of the budget is a major undertaking and is only possible because of the many people with a hand in it. I would like to thank all of the department heads, their analysts, all of their staff. Would like to thank the executive office for their leadership and overall direction in the budget, as well as the city council for their leadership in the process and their final say on the adoption. I want to thank the finance department for all of their efforts, and a special thank you to Deputy Director of Finance Margarita Cornejo, Principal Accountant Dominic Tartaglia, Financial Analyst Lori Lockwood, and Administrative Assistant Candy Munoz. Lastly, I want to thank the Communications Office for their assistance putting together our 300-page budget document. So I'll move quickly through the slides, focusing on changes from our budget workshop, but of course stop me if you have any questions as we go through. The city's theme for the upcoming fiscal year is City for Families. You will see photos of our local families featured throughout this presentation as well as in the budget book. As in the workshop, we're seeing an executive summary of what we will cover this evening. We will look at an overview of the process, including the timeline with ultimate adoption by the council. We will also look briefly at some of the economic factors driving the revenue estimates. We will look at our proposed spending plan, which recognizes the city's commitment to its workforce and contract services, including fire protection services and police department dispatching services, as well as general liability and workers' compensation costs, and unfunded mandates and obligations like the NPDES permit program. The plan also calls for strategic increases in staffing to deal with these mandates, as well as meeting the growing needs of maintenance districts funded through special district taxes. We will also recap the CIP budget, which is recommending funding of over $14.3 million in traffic relief and road infrastructure over the next 2 years. We see the budget process timeline here. We have completed 2 CIP workshops with the City Council, as well as held a meeting with our Quality of Life Measure DD Oversight Committee on April 22nd. The main budget workshop was held on May 2nd, bringing us to the final budget adoption tonight. Now we will revisit our economic outlook, and although tariff policies have been paused, in many cases, a decline in consumer confidence leads to greater levels of uncertainty with revenue projections. Just yesterday, an article in CNBC reported that the National Association of Home Builders Index neared pandemic level lows. Also, interest rates have been also held steady and are expecting to remain elevated over the budget cycle. This is good news for the city's investment earnings, but a reason for caution with other revenues like sales tax, property tax, and development fees. Unemployment rates also remain higher in California and Riverside County as compared to the national rate, and housing prices continue to increase. All of these factors are driving a very conservative approach to our revenue estimates. During the budget workshop, we looked at the top 5 revenue sources for the general and quality of life funds, along with our investment revenue. I wanted to update the City Council. In the last 3 weeks, we have received updated revenue projections, and while the general fund portion of sales tax is estimated to come in higher by close to $500,000, the quality of life sales tax is now estimated to come in lower by at least this amount. We have adjusted the sales tax projections by the same amount for each year to account for the updated projections. And as we will see later, we are proposing to shift a portion of the fire contract costs from the Quality of Life Fund to the general fund to account for this adjustment. So before we get into the revenue and expenditures for the budget, we wanted to touch on some amounts set aside for capital projects as well as funding of the general fund reserves. The proposed budget calls for the set aside of $3.9 million for the new community center and $1.2 million towards the McCall Boulevard I-215 interchange project. Additionally, $2 million of reserves assigned for public facilities are proposed to be committed towards their use on public facilities to comply with the requirements of the GAN limit, which will be covered later in this presentation. This action simply provides a higher level of commitment to use the funds towards public facilities and is not using projected revenues towards setting aside additional funding. The committed reserves can also be changed in the future by action of the City Council. On the right, we see a recap of the city's 40% general fund reserve policy. The combined total for fiscal year 25-26 climbs to $39.7 million, while the fiscal year 26-27 level reaches $41.3 million. Again, we are pleased to present a budget that keeps the reserve balances intact. Here we look at our update to our multi-year forecast. We would normally look out 10 years, but given the uncertainty about near-term revenues, we are limiting the forecast to 5 years. First, we see the May 2024 revenue projections, followed by the May 2024 expenditure projections, so 1 year ago. Next, we see the current revenue projections, followed by the current expenditure projections. We can see relatively minor adjustments between the projections from last year until now. We are seeing increases in the projections for property tax and investment earnings, along with decreases in the projections for sales tax and development fees. On the expenditure side, our projections for personnel costs and insurance were underestimated, while costs for contractual services were overestimated. But overall, for 25-26 and 26-27, the revenue estimates are 1% to 2% higher now than last year, and the expenditure estimates are higher now as compared to May 24, but by less than 1.5%. So at this time, I would like to ask Deputy Finance Director Margarita Cornejo to come up and talk us through the balance of the presentation. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, Mrs. Cornejo.
Hi, good afternoon, Deputy Finance Director Margarita Cornejo. And as our CFO Hickey has stated, I will present the balance of this presentation focused on the expenditure side of the budget. And so keeping in line with this being a family-focused community and the priorities of making it in that way, and against the backdrop of the revenue picture that was just discussed by our CFO, the operating budget on the expenditure side really took the focus of looking at maintaining service levels as they are and supporting the existing operations of the agency as they exist. There are a number of agencies, larger agencies right now, that are dealing with some larger fiscal challenges, things ranging from cuts to deficits. The city is fortunate to not be in that position because we have healthy reserves. And in the approach of this operating budget, again, it really is focused on maintaining the service levels at the quality that the community is expecting, and then addressing those high priority needs. So whether it be capital outlays or personnel, you'll see a recap of the minor adjustments that are being proposed in the upcoming year. So the operating budget, which really addresses the ongoing services of the agency, that's our day-to-day operations and activities, is presented here and summarized by the funding sources. That's your general fund, quality of life, internal service funds, and special revenues. And then on the right side, we have the capital improvement program, which was presented in detail by our engineering manager, Carlos Geronimo, earlier today. And so I'm going to highlight quickly what the changes were. These are large numbers. On the general fund side, you see that the changes, the square is just over the two categories, but in total, the amount did not change. The 99 million was what was presented at the workshop. The 103 million is what was presented at the workshop as well for the second year. And that is, again, a shifting of really the fire contract to accommodate the shifting in the revenue adjustments that our CFO Hickey mentioned. On the internal service funds, there were some slight adjustments. This is really related to our special districts, our CFDs, our LLMDs. The net change from what you guys saw and the public saw on May 7th really is about $43,000 more for 25-26 and $53,000 more for 26-27. So in total, the total CIP and operating budget, again, is only increased by $43,000 and $53,000 from what you guys last saw in May. And the CIP budget, as it was presented and has gone through the workshop, remains intact across all revenues. Here is kind of our summary of the general fund and quality of life. And again, the highlight here is that we're shifting in 25-26 about $426,000, and that's really in the fire contract side, from the quality of life fund to the general fund, and in 26-27 shifting about $535,000, again from quality of life to general fund to balance with the revenue adjustments that took place. All in all, the picture is it's a structurally balanced budget. We're looking to make sure that we have the recurring revenues in place to support the proposed expenditures for the next 2 years. So just a quick summary on quality of life. This did go to our quality of life committee on April 22nd. What was presented was a summary of providing support to our annual dispatch contract. That's 27%, about $1 million for each year. Funding 35% of all personnel, that's sworn and unsworn, costs associated with the Menifee Police Department. And then the adjusted number that we see here is 12.5 and 12.6. And again, it's adjusted down as I explained in the earlier slides in that way. And then the funding of 3 code enforcements, the CIP area, which includes $2.5 million across the 2 years, and the $1.2 million reserves remains unchanged. Due to the short timing of it, we did not bring this back to the quality of life in this fire contract adjustment, but it doesn't substantially change the original kind of recommendations from them in that side. And that's kind of bullet point on that. On the personnel side in our existing workforce, so going into the new fiscal year, the city stands with 330.5 full-time employees. The recommendation for 25-26 would result in a net increase of 3 personnel, and these again address high priority needs for the community. We are recommending adding 2 parks maintenance workers as the city continues to add new parks and take on responsibilities of right-of-way, giving again our family-focused community more recreation opportunities and landscaping, street lights, and so forth. Then the obligations increase as well. So there is a recommendation to add 2 parks maintenance workers. These are fully funded by special districts. That's really under CFD areas that would be covering the personnel costs associated with that. There is also the recommendation to add 1 assistant engineer in the Engineering Public Works Department, and that is to address mandated regulatory regulations that are coming into place really with stormwater and PDS. These are the same positions that were discussed at the budget workshop on May 7th, and there is 1 reclassification request in the Finance Department to reclassify senior accountant to a principal accountant, really to address and support the financial reporting and audit responsibilities at the agency, which continue to increase and become more complex. Part-time adjustments is to add some additional budget. As we see that minimum wage increase, it typically will impact our part-time staff most directly, and to support retention and recruitment and so forth, there is a recommendation to increase the budget by $41,000 on the part-time side. And the last one is not an addition, but a continuation of maintaining a part-time management aide that provides assistance to the CDBG program. This is partially funded with the CDBG or Community Development Block Grant itself, but there would be a general fund contribution, not an addition, just a retention of that position as a whole. On the regular non-personnel adjustments, we have a number of things, and again, these represent commitments of the agency on our workforce, the investment that the city is making towards our, robust workforce of 330 employees. There were a number of MOUs all across the bargaining groups that were negotiated and executed this year, and so the proposed budget cycle reflects those MOU kind of adjustments that come into place. And then there are other things that, as the agency's operations continue to increase, and just because of the insurance market as a whole, we have increases that are projected for the next 2 years. Our leases, same thing, we have an agreement in place that has increases year to year, and so that's reflected. We touched on some one-time expenses during the workshop, such as a new phone system that was estimated at $70,000 in one time, and a number of software. Can certainly, pause, and if you guys have additional questions on that, we can discuss those, or let me know. On the larger side of vehicles and equipment, we have a number of vehicles. Really, the bulk of them are represented by the ongoing patrol replacements. We replace about 8 per year. And then we have in 25-26 a motorcycle for the police department as well being replaced, and an additional vehicle to support their operations, as well as about 2, I think, park ranger car and 1 for public works. And the last larger investment that the city's putting forward is into some drone technology and equipment, which was presented by the police department a couple of meetings before, and that will help support some of their operations and services. In 26-27, the city is at this point leaving personnel at the recommended 336. It will be revisited at mid-cycle, which would take place in June of 2026. And seeing if at that point there's budgetary capacity and operational need to add that.
Ms. Cornejo, I have a question. On changing the phone system, I'm not sure who would be able to answer this. Is there anything wrong with the phones we have now?
Okay, so I see our Chief Innovation Officer, or Information Officer, Michelle Sarkeesian, coming up to give us more information on that.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Ms. Sarkeesian.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Michelle Sarkeesian, Interim Chief Information Officer. Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yes, I was wondering if there's anything wrong with the phones we have now, or why we're changing out the phones. Or it's $70,000 what the recommendation is to replace this, right?
Yes.
So that's a good amount of change, so I was wondering what's wrong with the phones.
Yeah, so excellent question. So In regards to our current phone system, it is set to have an end of life in this upcoming calendar year. So our goal is to be proactive and replace the system with a more functional, feature-driven system that will provide more productivity for our employees in the organization. And again, just a robust set of features just for auto attendant capabilities and whatnot. So the real reason for the replacement is just to make sure that we're replacing our phone system before it has an end of life date.
So, can you help me understand, you pick up the phone, you speak, but what special capabilities would this new system have?
Yes. So, and again, I can't emphasize enough, there's so many great features with it. So again, with the traditional phone systems, right, we have these desk phones at employees' desks. With the new phone system, it not only has that capability, but it also provides capabilities of having that phone or your desk line with you on your cell phone or on your computer, so you can answer phone calls from your computer. And it just provides that overall mobility aspect. So again, you're not tied to answering calls from the public or just answering your desk phone. When you're there at your desk, you could be off-site and have your cell phone with you, and again, it'll just be calling you, not directly on your cell phone number, but essentially on your desk line.
Okay, I'm not a complete specialist on it, but I'm sure there are already programs, and I've seen some of my family members use, you can redirect a phone call to your personal cell phone and things like that, but
Yes.
I'm not sure if, okay, it's going to be tough to sell me on this one. $70,000 is a lot.
And if I may add some clarification, it's $70,000 as an initial investment. It's $30,000 for the hardware in the first year, and then there's an annual or like subscription cost that supports it. We already have some kind of support that's going on in the existing system that we have, so it wouldn't be $70,000 in perpetuity. It's getting the hardware in place, and then we will, in some elements, offset the fact that we already have some operational costs for our phone system.
How long have we had the phone system we have now?
We've had it for over 10 years.
10 years, okay.
Yes, and just to, again, to highlight, to your point, yes, I know there is a dollar amount of $70,000 on that replacement, but the intent is really to ensure that the city, our organization, has a functional phone system that will be supported in the next 5-10 years. The system that we have is, in technology world, considered antiquated, and we're just trying to ensure that we replace the phone system before we don't have maintenance or support on that system. So it's like, as technology gets outdated, we're just trying to ensure we have a system that is not outdated and that can provide continuous telecommunication services for the city, for our employees, and
Okay, that helps sell me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is an end of life for a phone? Does it just explode?
in some cases it does, unfortunately.
Did you come in one day and there's just a puddle of plastic on your desk?
Yeah, or smoke or something.
The phone system you're talking about, I have it in my office, and like anything else, 90% of the features never get used. So I'm trying to find out how. I'd rather spend the money on fixing our phone connection to dispatch, which is horrendous. But what is it about a plastic handset that's going to end life?
End of life, yes. And to Claire, and excellent points, because yes, it's for end of life.
Is it that the service is no longer going to be supported, or are they ending support for it? Because I know there's a lot of technological programs where the company says, hey, you can keep it if you want, but we're not going to be doing updates, we're not going to be doing tech support, we're not going to be doing any of that. So is that what's going on?
Absolutely, that's exactly what's happening.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yes, we have equipment that, again, the manufacturer has deemed that we will no longer support it, so they won't be providing updates, patches, and that provides a security risk for us.
Yeah, you could be running Windows 95 right now if you want to, but you don't have a lot of the features. The example, there's the call boxes on the freeway. The company that maintains them has stop services and there's nobody else that does it. So they break down, they just end. So that's the kind of what you're talking about, we're seeing happening to our phones.
Yes, yeah.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That helps clarify.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, continuing and just summarizing again for 26-27, that's 2 years out, so we really retaining, given the kind of revenue picture and the leveling that we're seeing, is keeping personnel as are proposed, and just picking up those kind of mandatory commitments on insurance premiums and leases. And on the patrol side, it's a large fleet that needs to be maintained, and so just keeping that cycle moving with 8 vehicles per year. And for the vehicles themselves, it is good to note there is a general fund contribution of it, but it's also partially paid by DIF. So we look to leverage the funding sources wherever we can. In the areas of special districts, our lighting and landscaping maintenance districts, CFDs and CSAs, there are a number of these, particularly in the CFDs. The city has established this program as a way to ensure that we have funding mechanisms other than general fund to support new parks that come into the city, landscaping, street maintenance, and street sweeping, and so forth. So these provide a crucial funding source to our operating budget and on occasion to our CIP budget as well. So they are included as part of the operating budget and a little bit on the CIP again area. In summary, the 25-26 and 26-27 budget reflect that, and there is, we touched on it on the budget workshop, a contribution to some of our older special districts, specifically the lighting and landscaping maintenance districts, 2 zones, which are our larger zones for Zone 3 and Zone 38, are limited on the amount that they can be increased or don't have an escalator altogether. And on the expenditure side, as we know, things are more expensive, whether it's utilities or just the tree trimming costs themselves continue to increase. So there is a recommendation to provide a contribution from general fund totaling $135,000 in 25-26 and then $100,000 in 26-27. So here in total is a really, really big number of all the funds combined and all the operating CIP and bonded CFDs. Now this is $40 million, basically more, a little bit over that, from the operating budget and the CIP budget in the beginning slide when I started. And that really can be attributed to the bonded CFDs area. As you know, the city has a number of CFDs, and different from our maintenance CFDs, that are regularly being formed. And so that $44 million, really what it's capturing is the bond proceeds that are collected and then through the review process reimbursed back to the respective development, or on the regular ongoing side, the payment of that debt service, which is collected through special taxes on property, and then the payment of that debt service. So going to the 26-27 year, you again see that 176, and that also is picking up the bonded CFDs. What's it really, the big difference that's happening between the 2 years is the activity in the bonded CFD area can change from year to year. You may have more bond issuance and so forth from one year to another. But in total, this graphical representation gives the city's investments really by function on the operating budget, with our public safety on the farther side, ranging all the way down to our internal service, and all supported by a workforce of, again, 336.5 employees, of which 122 are public safety in that way. So the GAN limit in 1979, California voters approved Proposition 4, also known as the GAN limit, with the thought of reining in, if you will, local spending and establishing really like the, expenditure level at the 1978-79 level, and allowing those appropriations to be adjusted by population changes and inflationary changes every year. So it's not all expenditures, but really focus on tax proceeds and in the general fund. So this is a mandatory requirement that every agency has to do and ensure that we're in compliance with every year. Where does the city's appropriation limit stand for this year? It is $69 million, and we are in compliance with that. Now, recommended action that is included in the staff report does have that commitment of $2 million, again, moving from assigned to committed, because it again helps us meet our GAN limit in a contribution towards a capital investment. So The city's population did grow from just over 113,000 to 115,000, and there were inflationary growth in itself. But as a newer city, we do have our GAN limit that tends to be really kind of on that close horizon, where you see some older cities that have these really high GAN limits. But this is provided, included in the as a recommended specific action, because it is a requirement that we do when we go through budget adoptions. It is only included for 25-26, as we don't know the population yet for 26-27, but we would be bringing that as part of your 26-27 mid-cycle review. This is a summary and tables of the CIP program that was presented earlier by our Engineering Public Works Division, and it captures the appropriations, the 13 and the 14 million for the 2 years, the reserves, and then the recommendations of reprogramming. And so, you know, the saying, so like time flies when you're having fun, or doing, I guess, a budget cycle, maybe. So we're at the end of our presentation. There are a number of actions here, a lot of words here, and they are all connected, and they do need to be approved, starting with the adoption, a recommendation of adopting a resolution approving the 2 years, 25-26 and 26-27 biannual budget, approving the GAN limit, approving the authorized position listing, which is a listing of the personnel and compensation in that way, adopting a resolution that's formally committing the Rockport Ranch money towards the community center, the assigned fund balance and quality of life towards the McCall I-215 interchange, and moving the $2 million from assigned fund balance and public facilities to committed fund balance. And lastly, this action is to approve the finance department to process transfers of all approved CIP expenditures towards the capital project fund. And this is really to streamline financial reporting under one fund of all capital and CIP program expenditures in the future. So with that, that concludes our presentation, and staff is available for any questions council may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Cornejo. Okay, council, do we have any questions at this time? Questions only. Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak, or has any correspondence been received?
There are none.
There are none? Okay, council, I'll open it up for any comments or to discuss. I just wanted to briefly say, Mrs. Cornejo and Mr. Hickey and the entire finance team, and really the entire staff, I know how important this is to everyone, and I've been impressed with the finance department's work and very proud of your work, very proud to represent the city and everything you do behind the scenes. So thank you for everything. I see Mr. Temple, Councilman Temple in the queue.
Yeah, I wanted to echo what the mayor just said. On Friday, I went to Palm Springs and sat on a panel which was moderated by the California Policy Center. And our city was recognized for overall fiscal health with a grade of A. And as I sat in this room, it was pretty amazing to hear people who lived in different cities in California complaining that their parks were closing, they were eliminating positions within the city, they were freezing the hiring, and we have those healthy reserves. So I want to thank you for that budget and commend you for that.
Okay, I see no other discussion in the queue. Can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the recommended actions as presented?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And that passes 5-0. Great job, everybody. Great job.
Yeah, I just want to just say, since this item's closed, it makes our job so easy when we're not here talking about removing things from the budget. We're talking about adding things to the budget. It's really a lot of fun to sit up here when we're able to provide all these services and not have to scrimp, and credit to our finance department for allowing us to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, we're on City Attorney report. City Attorney Melching, do you have anything to report?
Not tonight, Mayor.
City Manager report. City Manager Villa, do you have anything to report?
Just a quick shout out to the finance department, and I think most of the department analysts for every department, because, you know, over the last several years, we've been trying to come up with a perfect formula to get the budget ready for you. And I think this year was such a pleasant year to be able to make sure that everybody worked collaboratively to be able to meet the deadlines. Obviously, our budget is getting bigger and bigger, and our staff is getting bigger and bigger, but happy to report that, I didn't notice any signs of frustration, people pulling their hair. I think there was plenty of time to be able to work with the council during several workshops, right? To be able to understand the revenue picture, the expenditure picture, and the needs of the city. So I just want to applaud everybody at the city that touched this budget, because a lot of hands touched this budget, and it was really a heavy lift and a city effort, everybody that worked on it. So good job, everybody.
Thank you, City Manager Villa. Next, we're on future agenda requests. Council, do we have any future agenda requests? Hearing none? Okay.
Can I make a
yeah.
proposal? Yeah,
Sure.
Can we adjourn tonight's meeting in honor of Tony Alt, Valley News reporter who passed away on June 5th, a real friend of journalism, gentleman, always a light at everything, and really did a nice, fair job covering our city in particular and all the cities, and he will be missed. So I just ask that we recognize him in that way.
All right, we have a second from Councilman Dinas. Excellent. We will adjourn this meeting tonight in memory of Tony Alt. I will adjourn this meeting at 8:16. Good night, Menifee.